Hi, everyone. This is Charity Flores, Chief Academic Officer for the Indiana Department of Education. I want to take a few minutes to welcome you this afternoon to our panel that is surrounding accelerated learning as we think about upcoming stages of remediation and support for students starting this summer. I'm very excited to be joined by several of your colleagues who are currently navigating this landscape of providing support for students. And before we get started, I did want to note we have the ability to capture some additional questions if you're listening in and want to prompt any additional clarification or feedback. If you're listening into the YouTube, just click the down arrow. That's the description for the video. And there is a Google Forms link for you to submit some additional questions to our panel. So before we get started with the specific questions, I'm just going to call on each panel member to briefly introduce themselves and their organization as we get started today. So Mary, do you want to go first?
Sure, Charity. Thank you so much. As Charity said, my name is Mary McCoy, and I am acting as the interim superintendent of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. We serve 68 schools from central to southern Indiana and about 13,000 square miles. So we span quite a bit of Indiana from the middle part of the state clear on down. So thanks for having me here today, Charity.
Thanks for joining us. Next, I'm going to kick it over to Shannon and Marcy.
Hi, I'm Shannon Carroll Fry, and they let me be the Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning here at Center Grove. And we serve about 8,700 students and growing just south of Indianapolis and Greenwood. And we're very pleased to be here. Marcy?
Yes. Hi, I'm Marcy Shostak. I'm the Director of Elementary Teaching and Learning. So I am a colleague of Shannon, and I'm really glad to be here and learning with you today. Thank you.
And we're also excited to have a community partner joining our panel this afternoon. So Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Sean Kuykendall from Evansville, Indiana, and I work for our YMCA here. We coordinate 37 programs in 25 local schools. Work closely with Evansville-Vandenberg School Corporation, Gibson County, as well as Warwick County. So we have about 50 to 60 staff at one time providing after-school services at various sites.
That's awesome. And Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny Smithson. I'm the Director of Special Education, High Ability Services, and Social Emotional Learning for Muncie Community Schools. And I'm just really happy to be here to participate as well.
Great. Well, we're going to dig into our questions, and just to give everyone fair warning, we did plan some of these questions in advance, but if you have any additional questions that you want to ask spontaneously, you can go ahead and submit those in our Google form, and we'll address those as we have time as well. So the first one, which as the Chief Academic Officer, we focus a lot of conversations on data and different trends that we're observing as we try to make some of our decisions going forward. But I'd like to hear from a few of you, how are you using data to best inform which students may benefit from accelerated learning? And I'm going to go ahead and kick it off first with Jenny. Do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So a multitude of different ways, but our administrative team has analyzed the obvious ones like IREAD 3 to see who's going to need remediation before their second test. We've obviously looked at our formative assessments, which in Muncie schools we use iReady as our assessment. So what's really nice about that is it not only tells us which kids aren't meeting and mastering those standards for their grade level, but it breaks it down by domain for us and allows us to be able to determine and open it up to any student in the district who would like to work on those domains over the summer that they may have a weakness in. So we're going to be doing that for all of our families here and letting each parent have a report knowing which pieces they're struggling with, and in the online instruction piece of iReady automatically will assign them those lessons. So that's one other way. I think the other big one that we're really using this summer is the transcripts of our high school students who are virtual, making sure they earn the credits they were supposed to earn, and then if not, finding ways for them to do credit recovery this summer. So those are just a few ways that we're using data.
Yeah, I agree. We are using a lot of formative assessment data as well in Center Grove to look at accelerated learning for students. We are overall focusing on students who need tier 3 support, so they need core and more and more. And so we're really intentionally focusing in on what those supports are and utilizing data from our universal screeners. The dyslexia screeners offered a lot of targeted information for shaping accelerated learning plans. We are also able to pair those universal screeners and NWEA data with essential learning proficiency. Our teams engage in creating essential learnings or power standards, and so we can pair proficiency data with those universal screeners to create some clear learning targets during accelerated learning where teachers are filling foundational gaps, yet also previewing and pre-teaching content and essential learnings for the next grade level. So that's been our approach in looking at data to form some of those accelerated plans.
Shannon, you want to add too?
I would say at the secondary level, the other thing that we are using heavily, we're focused on connecting our most disengaged secondary students. And so our secondary schools have been developing watch lists through our counseling departments and through also our virtual, our staff that's focused most on virtual learning also has a set of those. So we have been using that information. And there's one other piece of information that's new to us and how we can use it, but we have invested in using Panorama, and this is the first year we've been able to do a universal screener for SEL skills, K-12. So we're very new in our use of that data, but that's another piece that we're trying to look at to try to make sure we're getting the right kids matched with our programming this summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and go ahead, Mary.
I just wanted to add one thing with the Archdiocese being a little bit different because we're not real centralized and we have schools using all kinds of formative assessments out there. And of course, all of our schools participate in the state assessment, the iReady, but the majority of our schools do use the NWEA. Quite a few of them use iReady. So as I just shot these questions out to many of our principals saying, help me out here and let me hear where we're coming from here. But it sounds like a lot of the same data that you all are using as well. But one principal did make a comment that I thought was interesting was they realized that it was their K1 and 2 students that were really struggling and were behind. And partly because we were out that whole almost second semester last spring, going into summer. And so they really focused on those little ones, K1 and 2, this year, having them back in person and continuing to assess them, but found that they really were successful in closing some of those gaps this year, just having the K1 and 2 kids back in the building. So.
Well, just as an initial reaction to some of what's been shared, it sounds like a lot of you are really relying on that formative assessment information as being a critical factor and navigating the social emotional aspects of all of this as well. We've observed in a lot of research studies right now how critical it is not only to focus on the academic side, but also how we really need to infuse some of those social emotional needs for our most vulnerable students as well. I think I saw a hand maybe to add one other comment.
When we were speaking about the early learners, to build on Mary's sentiment there, that we're really excited to be able to offer a newer program for us. I know other corporations have offered something similar, but the Ready, Set, K program that we're going to start for our incoming kindergartners here this summer, we're going to be using our local kindergarten screening assessment paired with some of the Panorama data we're asking parents in a survey some social emotional learning questions about their kiddos to get both of those pieces of data to select and identify students. So it made me think of that when she was talking about our youngest learners.
Yes. And I really appreciated, Jenny, you mentioning too, as we think about the other end of the continuum, just making sure that we're also thinking about those high school students and credit recovery. So I think really we have to be thinking K-12 in this space and all of the needs. So thank you. Anything else on that question before we move on? Okay. So the next one, kind of shifting a little bit to the partnership idea. How are you leveraging external partnerships as you try to navigate accelerated learning? And I think I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off this time with Sean. Do you want to jump in?
Right. So, in looking at, at that piece, RY is about community partnerships. So we're always looking to, connect with other people with the whole collective impact strategy. So we have some great backbone organizations in our community, Wellborn Foundation and, our United Way and other places who are always continuing to push our organizations in a manner by which we partner with other people to make more solid programs. So whether it be from our 21st century programs we do, where we're linking with scouting and, all sorts of even dance studios in town to really help address some of those secondary pieces. Although we do core academics, we put a lot of eggs in the basket really when it comes to that holistic learning of that child and creating those opportunities for kids to, get outside the buildings after school. So one thing we've done is formed a partnership with our College Career Readiness Program, where we have 6 schools and we take all those kids on 5 tours of local businesses and then 1 college in our community. And at each one of those pieces, we form a partnership with a new business. So, we have probably 50 business partnerships where we have these 6 schools going to, which then bring them into the school environment, which then creates partnerships and, informs site councils and parent teacher, interactions. When you have business involved with that, we found we're just a lot more successful in collaboration. So I hope that's maybe what you were getting at,
Yeah.
but we tried not as a Y to go at things alone. We try to partner with as many people as we can to help address the kids' needs.
Yeah, that's great. And we've had a lot of conversations here at the department thinking about work-based learning and again, trying to think in some of those high school spaces as students are navigating the pathways. There is more flexibility just beyond servicing them this summer in coursework specifically. So trying to think a little bit more outside the box. So I think that's a great example. Jenny or Mary, do you want to jump in next?
Sure, I'll be happy to. We are really excited about some of our universities and the partnerships with our universities and depending on where our schools are located. For instance, we have a school out in Terre Haute and they are developing partnerships with Rose Holman and doing some STEM opportunities with St. Mary of the Woods out there with the music therapy. And then and even here in Marion County in the Indy area with Marion University, we're super excited to be able to have them practically in our backyard and partner with them as well. And they're going to actually, hopefully, I know that they're applying for the the grant, and hopefully do some Orton Gillingham training with our teachers and doing some tutoring, either this summer or after school. And then again, of course, many third-party providers our schools always work with, providing instruction and curriculum in the summer and even after school with Catapult or with FACS or with Tools for Success and Renaissance. So a lot of those providers will partner with our schools and provide different instruction as well. And then the last one, Camp Navigate. I know a few of our schools use Camp Navigate and partner with them to come in and do some summer school and some after school tutoring as well. So lots of wonderful opportunities for partners out there, which I'm happy to hear that our schools do take advantage of those. So.
Yeah, I would just add that I agree. We are partnering with our local university, Ball State University, on several different opportunities. We have some writing and poetry camps that are going to actually be held on campus. so the students can get that like college career ready feel. We also have partnering with Ball State and their elementary education department to do an outdoor science and literacy camp at it's a place that we have that's pretty unique here in Muncie called Camp Adventure. It's an outdoor experience. It's got trails and a pond, and they can fish, and there's cabins and things like that for them to hang out in, and lots of cool science equipment and stuff like that out there, like microscopes and everything. So we're going to do a real hands-on literacy and learning science camp out there, and we're actually repeating it the whole month of June and the whole month of July. So that's going to be a really cool partnership, and our teachers get to be part of that as well as Ball State students. And I just think that's going to be a really fun thing. The Y in our area is also partnering with us to do an elementary camp called Grissom Gold in one of our elementary schools. And that's going to be really neat for the K-5 students. And that's going to focus on their literacy and math as well. The Boys and Girls Club in our area is going to be doing several different camps for different age groups in partnership with us. And then Cornerstone Center for the Arts here in town is actually going to be providing different guest artists to work in some of our camps to come out and give them some really cool experiences. I really love that some of the even local churches are providing camps that are just related to like sports or wellness that we're going to partner with to get some of our kids to be able to go there. So I'm excited about all of that. And then the family resource centers in our area are also working with us to get out the word and make sure that families sign up. So.
Great. Does anyone have any other comments to add related to community partners?
One thing we have done is we've hired 2 professors from Ivy Tech to come out and do after-school programming. And then they bring their students in particular with the computers and different types of technology advancements. A lot of the staff we hire at the Y don't quite have that skill set. So what we found is the most effective was to hire professors to come out and pay them to work in after school. And then just opens up the, Ivy Tech to our students. And they go out and participate in competitions there, Beck's competitions. So it's been a neat partnership, and the professors like it's a little extra resources for them, and they get to come in and interact with a bit of younger population than they're used to.
It's been interesting to hear all of your feedback. It sounds like really an element of the focus is some of the wraparound support for your students again, and not necessarily just fully focused on the academics, but kind of the wraparound to support the whole child. So that's really exciting to hear some of these innovative ideas. So another element, and Sean, I think you just touched on this a little bit, but one thing that I think we have identified as a challenge potentially in some schools or corporations is trying to be most creative about finding some adults or additional services to best support accelerated learning this summer, especially as we know what a challenging year it has been for our teaching community. So would love to hear your perspective on ways that you've tried to think outside the box a little bit in that space, or other adults or volunteers that you may have to rely on to kind of provide some extra levels of support. And I know, Sean, you touched on the professors, but did you have others that you wanted to add to that?
Well, we as a community partner leaned back on specialists. I know one person on thing indicated they have the social emotional learning specialty. Our staff are great with kids and kids love them, but our staff lacks some of the knowledge and some of the pieces you're trying to get at, say, with that consistent model that kids are used to during the school day. So kind of linking with that. So one of the key parts we tried to do is like Susan Phelps at EVSC. She comes out and trains our YMCA staff to make sure that when we enter the door and interact with the kids, it doesn't become a totally new experience. Because for kids, although new experiences are good, consistency is also very good for them. So for us, we lean on those type of pieces. But, the other thing is we try to diversify our staff. We have parents who we hire from our neighborhoods to work in our summer programs. We hire, obviously, teachers. We hire college students. We hire retirees to come in. We have a reading program we do in partnership with Experience Corps, where we have senior retired people who come in and do tutoring with students. And so we try to diversify. I think the biggest thing for us is we don't want to come in with only college students. We come in with a mix of different people who we think students can find a way to engage with and work together. So we pull out all the stoppers in terms of utilizing different things. The other big part of the why, and I'll pass it on, is the why is volunteer founded, volunteer led. So in any one month, we have between anywhere from 180 to 200 volunteers who at some point or another reach out to help other people through our system. So we have a mechanism in place where we do background checks and do things with them and incorporate them. Going so far as we have volunteers in the community write positive notes in books. We give every kid in every literacy program 13 brand new books, and every book has a personal message from a volunteer in the community who encourages that child the value of reading and what they're doing. So, just trying to equalize that playing field with kids and access to books. And what we found is we engage volunteers through processes where they're not even interacting face to face. So I would encourage people to find ways for volunteers to do it. It's writing positive notes in books and notes to kids and teachers and lifting up morale instead of only focusing kind of on face to face.
Those are great ideas. And I think, again, one of the challenges this year is really trying to figure out where those that capacity of resources may lie. So I know in trying to really have small group instruction and sometimes very tailored instruction, at the end of the day, you need some extra levels of support. And so being thoughtful about who could potentially serve in that capacity, I think is really important. So thank you. So one of the things that we anticipate being a challenge, so we're not quite there yet to know if it will be, but we did want to prompt and ask how some of you might be kind of thinking about attendance requirements, engagement, if there's certain incentives or ways that you're kind of navigating some strategies to make sure that as we're planning all of these things, at the end of the day, the students are there to actually engage in what you've planned. So, Mary, did you want to kick us off on that one?
Sure. Yeah, so I think our schools are pulling all kinds of tricks out of their bags for this one. So I know one particular school, they actually wrote personal invitations to students that were handwritten and to families to invite them to come to summer school. They did phone calls to families and really took time to talk about their child individually and what their child's needs were, to just to basically include those parents in the education of their child so that they would see the importance of having them come into summer school. They're focusing on smaller face-to-face instruction and hoping that they will really see an impact of it this summer. And then of course the usuals, in our Catholic schools, we can always give those out of uniform passes, and those are a big hit if the kids get if they show up for summer tutoring, they'll get, or ice cream socials. Several of our schools are going to do ice cream socials, and just those weekly challenges and having incentives available for them, that if they're going to come this summer, then they're going to entice them with a few little extras. So.
Anyone else have thoughts or comments to add on that one?
So one thing I'm working on in our district is we really want the kids to work on their iReady online instruction in the summer for the pieces they need to keep that learning going and not have a big summer slide. But we were like, who's actually going to do that if we don't incentivize it? So right now I'm trying to develop some sort of an incentive program to where if I check at the end of the week and they've completed so many things, that they'll earn they might get a certificate the first week, and then the second week they might get like an ice cream cone from Baskin Robbins, or just something like that. We would be able to send them and they would get mail. So, but I don't know. We're trying to come up with that and kind of flush it out right now. But we know that that's going to be really hard for parents to, oh, well, get on and just do your math for 15 minutes or whatever. I mean, that's going to be hard to get them to do if we don't have incentives tied to it. But that's another one we're trying. And we have made a lot of personal phone calls as well.
Have
I
you
don't wanna-
found that personal connection has gone well when you've reached out?
9 times out of 10, I would say yes. They are really excited that someone called and thought this would be a good fit for them, especially like some of my high ability learners that didn't really think about going and doing anything this summer. When I talked to them about how cool the poetry camp was going to be at Ball State or the Lego robotics camp we're having at East Washington Academy, they're like, what? And so once they really understand what it is and what it's for, then they're more likely to sign up.
Sean, go ahead. I'm sorry, I may have interrupted you there.
It's okay. Just a couple things we do. Attendance, we've run programs for years and years over the summer and really focused a lot. There's a couple things that really stick out to us. One is we actually deliver an activity box to families to their door. And that takes some time and commitment, but we put together a box of learning things to right off the bat set the message with the family that we're not going to just do summer school with your kiddo. We want this to be a family thing. So we offer 3 family engagements during the 20-day summer program we do. So there's 3 different times the families are welcomed in. This year we'll be outside. The schools have said not inside, but we could do outside. So that's one piece. The other piece is inside these boxes we deliver 1 per week. All last summer, every week we delivered a box around the community for hundreds of families. And we asked them to take a picture of them doing the activity together. We bought a phone at the store, so it wasn't a staff person's phone. We said, just take a picture and text us you doing this activity together. And then we entered them in a drawing based on their entry. So if they, 92 of the 157 families sent something in, we do a drawing and then we announce that. And the kids loved it because it was kind of them taking a selfie of them doing X activity or counting together or making something. And then it really showed us that the families were interacting with learning versus just the kid doing it on their own. So when we did that, we took pictures, and if there were multiple people in the picture, we give them extra things in it to increase family participation. So it went very well, and the kids loved using their phones as a way to show their learning. We also gave free guest passes. So each week, if they have perfect attendance, they got a week-long guest pass to come to the YMCA for their family.
Oh,
Free.
wow.
We target schools with 90% free and reduced lunch. So many of the families are not Y members because they just can't afford it. So I don't, you could ask the why, but we give a guest pass. At the end of the summer, we had a goal of 85% attendance over the summer. And if they met that threshold, the family got a 3-month free membership to the Y. And so we got our board to back it. So you might be able to contact local businesses or swimming pools or other places and say, listen, can I give them a free pass to come swimming if they get 100% attendance this week? And you may find some local businesses who'd love to have some more people visiting right now.
Well, I see everybody writing that one down, so I feel like that might be a good idea.
I love those ideas, Sean. I do. I would add one more thing, Charity. I know sometimes it's just not so much an incentive, but students need to attend summer school in order to be passed on to the next grade. They need to make up that work and get caught up a little bit during the summer in order to be on target for that next grade. So.
So I think we've touched on this one a little bit, but love to hear a little bit more if you have some other strategies. I think, again, one of the areas of focus has kind of been in the academic space, specifically in ELA and math. So with your programs, do you have, specific strategies that you're intersecting either outside of when they're spending time focused on the content, or how you're layering in some of those other SEL components or otherwise, just kind of how you're packaging all of this together to really meet the needs of the students coming in? I'll start with Shannon or Marcy this time if you want to dive into that one.
Sure. We are still in development. I will say that up front. So who knows what amazing, amazing things our teachers are going to come up with when we get them all in the door ready to go. But we are focused because at the middle school level specifically on the academic standard SEL competencies for grades 6 through 8 as our foundation for our curriculum. And from that, because the state has done such a nice job of then putting that in context with how it fits with the each of the ELA and math standards and how they intersect. We'll be asking our teachers to then look for the competencies and the essential learning for the next course. So we're trying to serve our kids up with pre-teaching basically for success in the next, rather than looking for the gaps, it's more of a sheltered instruction goal. So we're really leaning into the documents that have been provided by the state for those SEL competencies. And we're hoping that the ways that, because that feels more fun and exciting, that it won't feel like I've got to do math and I have to do English. I get to go do and our Craig Smith, our middle school central principal, came up with an acronym. We're calling it SPARK, which is Summer Program for Accelerating Readiness and Connection. So everything is going to be focused on connections and those SEL competencies. So when it comes to fruition, we'll be very excited to showcase it. Right now, it's it's very out there, and we're leaning into the state's resources. So thank you to the state for providing all that.
I think Shannon was teeing herself up to come back for another panel.
That's what I heard as well. The only thing I'll add, and as a counterpart to Shannon in our elementary grades, especially those incoming from preschool to kindergarten, our heavy focus is on those social emotional Indiana competencies, connection with kids, getting them to know they'll be in their home building. So getting them just familiar with the lay of the land, how to go to the restroom with the class, how to go to the cafeteria. So connection, building confidence, a lot of self-regulation skills, and cooperation. So we're going to be kind of heavy in the C's: cooperation, confidence, and connection.
So yeah, especially with our outdoor learning camps that we're having, there are some pieces to that. Out at Camp Adventure, we have the teams and low ropes courses, where kids are going to be doing team building and lots of different skills related to SEL, as well as the literacy and science aspects. But even though they're doing academics, they're going to be doing it in a completely different environment, not inside a school building, outdoors, collecting bugs, picking up leaves. They go on a scavenger hunt to find the different trees and how to name them, just different things like that are activities that Ball State students have created about Camp Adventure for us, and that the kids will have fun doing, and it's just in a whole different way than they normally would learn that. I think the Lego robotics camp is going to be that way too, because it's very STEM oriented. But they're going to be, in fact, one of our instructors has created basically a miniature golf course that's going to be inside the building, and the kids have to code their robots to go and to get the different, and they count the number of times they have to code it to get to each one to see who can get the lowest number of times they have to code. So just different cool things like that that'll be not traditional, and they're not sitting and getting anything there. And then the camps at Ball State are definitely not in a school, elementary school or middle school or even high school environment. They're going to actually be on campus, and they're going to do some of it outdoors, where they'll go someplace and write about what they see outdoors or create a poem. And some of it will be in like a computer lab at a university where they're typing up their writing and they're doing, so that's totally different for some of our kids to give them that new experience.
Anyone else want to add to that one?
I would just share that our motto is the academic focus in the morning, hiring teachers knows. Then our Y provides 4.5 hours of enrichment activities in the afternoon. So kids kind of get batoned off to a new group of adults in the afternoon, kind of breaks up their day, and then they get to do more of the experiential learning. So everything's tied to the morning. If they're learning about something in the morning, there might be a field trip to the zoo that Friday where they're then learning and doing a little more real world experience type of things. But we do nutrition, character development, physical activity, music, art. And I think there's one more that we do every day with them in that 4.5 hours we have with them in the afternoon. So we found over time, previous years, summer school was kind of a couple, 3 hours, then kids went home or maybe just a rec program. Our program for the last 7 years that we run through kind of the YUSA is more of that summer learning loss prevention strategy. And then, 4.5 hours of enrichment stuff every day. So kids are getting a full blanket full and they love it. They stay active and, it's a long day for them, but they're doing things that are more in a camp type atmosphere. So we have to remember that to keep it like camp sometimes. So we do chants as we walk down the hallway and, different kinds of stuff that you don't get to do during the school year maybe, but we try to just liven it up as much as possible so kids can interact and enjoy those pieces.
So one last question that I have, and then we'll see if we've received any in our submission form is, you all have been engaged in this process, some of you a long time, some of you're still kind of trying to figure out what this is going to be, but I know it's going to be awesome. Do you have any lessons learned or surprises that you've tried to wrestle through along the way? If someone's out there in our audience thinking, oh, I want to do this, but I want to make sure I'm, building off of things that other people have already figured out. Anybody have some lessons learned or things that people should be really cognizant of as they're trying to figure out where to go from here? Jenny or Mary or Shannon, go ahead.
Talk to transportation early.
I was just going to say that. Transportation is a puzzle, but yeah, getting them lists of who's going to be doing what so that they can organize and be prepared is really important.
Honestly, I will tell you in the last few weeks of really having these accelerated learning conversations, transportation is a common FAQ. That is something that has really been interesting to navigate and figure out. So thank you, because if you haven't thought about transportation yet, be thinking about it.
Other thing I would say, and our transportation director is phenomenal, and she was like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But the other thing is food service. I made ridiculous assumptions about food service. And again, our food service director was like, absolutely, an opportunity to feed kids breakfast and lunch, bring it. But it's a new process for us with a new group of kids. So that was the other thing.
Yeah, we're definitely scaling that up too. I would say just keeping in really strong communication with everyone. It's taken a whole village to put this together. Like, it couldn't be just me and one other person. I mean, our whole admin team worked really hard with all the principals and with our, we have student assistance coordinators in our buildings that reach out to families and it was definitely a team effort. So involve as many people as you can and just keep the communication lines wide open and transparent about what's happening. One thing I really love is when we put all of the summer offerings on our website so that they're right there for parents to click on and see what's offered, and they're able to see which one would be a best fit for their child if there's anything on there that interests them.
I would just add the obvious when you're talking about stumbling blocks and the obvious with having our teachers so exhausted and so burnt out and being understaffed and a lot of the red tape and the challenges of using our dollars and so especially we have some small rural schools out there and it's hard to find quality teachers that are willing to come and teach in the summer. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge with our schools right now, even though, we're able to, with the additional dollars, we're able to certainly pay them a nice amount over the summer and entice them with the dollars to come in and tutor. But some of our teachers, they need a break from it. And some of our schools are having a hard time getting teachers to come in and do some summer tutoring or some summer school over the summer. But that's where those third-party providers help as well. If you can reach out to the Catapults or the FACTS, and they're very good at helping hiring and getting good teachers in there as well. So
A couple of things have kind of helped us. The YMCA, I have a kind of a fleet of 10 vehicles. We have a vehicle available to go pick kids up in the morning. What we found over the summer is it's usually not the kids' fault for not coming this summer. Somebody's not in the routine of getting them up and going and that tradition. So we kind of make sure we eliminated that, and our parents know right off the bat, we're able to come pick them up. The other thing is we make it a rule to make sure the first call home has to be positive. So too often during the school year, it's just that experience between the school and the parent sometimes is negative due to behavior. And we tell our staff off the top, I don't let any kid be sent home unless you can prove to me that you've already had a positive contact with that parent. So what we found early on, years ago, decade ago, when we were running these programs, if our first call home was negative, the parent just said, fine, I'm not sending them anymore. And they were out of your summer program. So we tried to really focus on relationship in the beginning. So when we had to call the parent and say, listen, your child needs to stay out tomorrow, but we want them back on Wednesday because this happened, that interaction went better. So I would encourage you, it'll be a rush, but I like how everybody's calling families and setting the tone. The other piece that we underestimated was the value of a nurse over the summer. I don't know if you're going to have that in your programs or not. We typically don't here for summer programs. So you have issues with kids maybe not having access to their standard medication. So we encourage families in the beginning for summer, try to keep your sleep routine the same. Try to keep some of these consistencies and keep medicine going. A lot of families have heard from their doctors, give it during the school year, but not during the summer. So you might realize that in the beginning that they may come to your summer program and the parent will tell you, the parent said, don't give it over the summer. And you're saying, yes, you need to keep that so your child can be successful. So we started communicating that early on with families that can keep that, consider this summer program just like school year and build your child for success by a decent nighttime routine, going to bed at a decent time and eating regularly and taking your medicine like you're supposed to. And those things were super successful for us.
Okay, so those are my questions. We did have one in the submission form, and I will just do a quick reminder. If you are listening in and you want to submit a question, the Google form is under the description of the YouTube video. So click the down arrow and you can get to the submission form. So this question, Mary, it called you out. So be prepared. We might need some help from you. Please discuss the funding sources that some of you are using for your programs. And then Mary, specifically, are you using EANS? EANS? I'm not sure if
EANS, yes.
EANS. Okay.
EANS is the Emergency Assistance for
There you go.
Non-Public Schools. So yes,
Got it.
we have been blessed to be participants of the EANS funds. It just becomes a little challenging sometimes because we are not direct recipients of federal dollars. And so those federal dollars go through a third-party provider. Hence the reason a lot of times our schools will use FACTS, Catapult, Tools for Success, the vendors that I mentioned, and then they work with our schools closely in partnership to use those dollars to hire some very qualified teachers into our schools. So yes, hopefully I answered that question.
I think so. If not, they can submit another one
Okay.
for us. Anybody else want to weigh in on funding? Because I'm sure that's a common question too.
Yeah, probably very similar to all of you, and maybe a lot of people listening. We are using a lot of our CARES dollars allocated towards summer learning, and also actually a little bit, we have had early intervention grant that we've allocated a little bit in those primary grades. We're in kinder first and second. So those are a couple places that we're looking and using.
And
Shannon?
we're also tapping into the summer school reimbursement opportunity for courses. And I looked and double quadruple checked this, but advisory is a course that's permitted in the middle school for summer school reimbursement. So that's the other reason that we feel so confident about being able to use that curriculum to support our kids and to do the summer school grant reimbursement.
Yes, the same is true here at Muncie Community Schools. We're using our federal dollars from CARES, from ESSER too, to fund these programs this summer, and a few of our private foundation grants from here in Delaware County.
And Mary did mention this earlier, but I will just note as well, there is a 1008 grant submission that's due tomorrow. And there's lots of information on our website, but if anybody needs details on that, just, give us your name and we'll make sure to connect you with that detailed information. But there are some additional sources of funding still available as well. I
So
do have, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to share the why. We have a number of foundations. So we have about 27 grants that kind of support what we do to the tune of about 1.8 million that really enables us to do all these pieces for free for kids. So just know there's lots of foundations out there. They're looking for pieces. We have one foundation, we get $200,000 to be able to provide, and these literacy programs to support school efforts. So, encourage people, they got to partner with you all at schools, but we're successful when we work together. The local school corporations work with us, they share data, they do things in a way that really helps, promote outcomes. And so we're able to show our impact. So, there's a lot of resources out there to support literacy in schools. I think we've been more successful this year with grant writing than other years, mainly because they know kids are struggling and out there. So I encourage you to go to those local places and, seek support, whether it's through United Way or other places, because there's pieces. And like you all said, many of us nonprofits are writing this bill, House Bill 1008, and trying to do things and working with schools. So we appreciate you all working with us as community partners. The last thing we're doing in our community is trying to pitch it around. If a nonprofit doesn't want to fill out the whole application, we've invited a number of them to just join in on ours, where they can still, come in and maybe, produce something 2 days a week in an after school program. So we're hopefully going to have a few more partners join in on ours just to help it be stronger and serve kids in a better way.
Mhm. So I think, Shannon, this person may have set you up here based on some of your earlier comments, but first they give kudos to all of you. They think this has been wonderful information. But as you're thinking ahead about summer, are you also laying some groundwork for fall? Kind of what comes next after this?
Yeah, we are, we've tried to think about not only this summer, but the next, is it through 2024, I think, that we can
Yeah,
extend
there's
some-
several waves and they all have a different end date.
Yeah, so we're kind of doing this, but at the middle level, especially also as we're trying to focus on connections, we're intending to make some intentional placements of our students in their schedule and making sure that the summer connections that are made with staff are hopefully able to be continued throughout the school year. And as this is our first year, we're hoping that next year we'll have an even better idea of how to do it and that will continue to grow. And I haven't talked about our high school at all, but you had mentioned the intense need for, or maybe Jenny had mentioned that there's an intense need for credit recovery for some of our hopefully graduating seniors. But also we're really focused on those connections with those kids and trying to build some opportunities to pre-connect kids that might disengage otherwise and then carry those throughout the year as well.
Mhm.
The high school is not as far along in that conversation as our middle school is though.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would add, I'm working with Ball State to, we're actually looking at a graduate assistant that's going to work with us for the next year on social and emotional learning and with a focus specifically on our high school. I really want them looking at how to better provide Tier 1 instruction in SEL to our high school students. They're going to work with our Student Advisory Council on that, and I want it to be a little more student-led than teacher-led. And see what our high school students have brilliant ideas, especially our early college program kiddos. So I want to see what they can come up with and how we can better build SEL into our high school. I think we tried to do a really nice job of doing that this year in the elementary and middle schools, but I really feel like the next step then is to really focus on high school next year. But continue to build the proficiency of working with the SEL competencies and all of those kinds of things with our staff. We're doing restorative justice training with our administrative teams and our counselors. We're just going to try to do all the things we've really wanted to do for a really long time, but didn't have the dollars to do it. So
I would just add to that a few of our high schools here in the Marion County area are also using their ENS funds to bring in additional staff members and to begin to target those incoming freshmen for in the fall that have that learning loss. And they've created a couple additional classes, essential skills, so that they can target those students and get them early and bring them in and begin to fill that gap of that learning loss with those essential skills courses. So.
Well, I'll check. Nikki, did we have any other questions that popped in? Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
Yeah, we do a program for the last 7 years called Y Read, which in January, February, and March, we target schools in the community and we go in. We got some grant funding to do it to really lift kids up before they take the iRead test. So we're looking to scale that within our grant piece. So we'll have kids over the summer, but really hone in on third graders. So it's a 12 session piece. We hire your teachers. Your teachers teach it. The Y just offers that wraparound piece, do some family engagement, provide all the three free books to kids, provide the resources for it, but we hire your teachers and it's a 1-to-7 ratio. And we've been doing it for 7 years and we've always been at the pass rate for Indiana. So these are kids that are not slated to pass based on you all picking and deciding what kids are on track to pass that test or not. We've always been able to lift them up to about that Indiana pass rate. So, but if you're looking for another intervention, it's been real effective. Parents love it. The schools have been very receptive of it because the kids get a lot of that individual attention after school for 12 sessions right before they take that test. So we've had pretty good success with that. And United Way has really embraced it here as just a really neat concept of that third grade reading and making sure they're passing that so that they don't get held back.
Well, we are officially out of questions. So I just want to take a moment and thank all of our attendees and, of course, our panel members. Thank you all for sharing this hour with us. It has really been exciting to hear all of your plans and strategies. And I wish you all of the success as you implement them. Please stay in touch as you navigate next steps. And if anyone's listening in and has additional questions, you can always reach out to our office as well. And we can connect you with any of the panel members if they were specific questions for any of them. But thanks again for listening in. We really appreciate your time today.